Hello, Power Platformers. So in today's video, we're gonna do the second part of our model-driven app versus Canvas app, in which we are going to build a Canvas app for timesheet tracking. Now, just to recap, a Canvas app is driven by design, and its UI is flexible compared to model-driven app. It is task-centric, so we are using timesheet tracking as a task that we are going to implement in a Canvas app. It is not going to be a no-code solution. There'll be some code involved. So let's jump into it. So as it's a design-driven app, so we'll need a design to start off with. So we have this wireframe that we want to create an app for. So you can see it has a header with an image, and then it has a whole week in a grid. Where user can type in, can select their project, type in their hours, put in some description, and then put in whether, and then mark if they are on leave on that day. All right, so let's go to our app designer and create a new app. So this time we're going to create a Canvas app. Let's call it Time App, and we're going to use some tablet and phone. It basically shows what canvas that you are going to use. So this is a tablet format, which is much larger in size, and it gives you a lot more real estate compared to a phone canvas. So let's do that. All right. So keeping in mind, so let me leave it out of there. So keeping in mind the design that we are trying to accomplish, let's start off. Let's insert an image. So we need an image here, and we can select an image from the one that we are going to use. All right, next thing is we need a header. So we can just put a label here that should be sufficient for our header. And let's just call it tracking app. All right, let's increase the size a bit so that it looks similar to what we have in our wireframe. Make it bold, and we know that there is a background color. So I can just select here, this for now. So if I go back to my diagram, it looks a bit similar to what we had in our wireframe. So again, it's a design driven. So we're gonna keep on referencing our design to make sure that we are following the design. Next is we need a couple of labels to define our work week. All right, so we can easily do that. Put in a label here, somewhere here, it should be fine. And one more label here. So this is what we call work week. And yep, and let's just make it a bit bolder. And for here, we need to show the current week as the work week. So we have a formula for that. So I'm going to use that formula. So again, this is where we are talking about low code. So it is not completely no code solution. There is some code involved. So here you can see that we are using some of the out of the box functions of Power Apps, where we are getting a date, where we're getting today's date, and then we are getting the Monday for that date, and then we are doing a date format, DDMMYYYY. And similarly, we are showing the start and the end of the week. So if I look at here, my week started on 27 and I'm ending it on Saturday. I'm including Saturday as in a work week for this demo. All right, let's just make it a bit bolder as well. Nice. So next thing, according to our design, is we need a grid, which shows all the days of the week, along with all this other information. That's pretty easy. So let's go back. Let me select a gallery, which should be sufficient for our requirement here. And let me fit it so that it covers the entire real estate. Right, we're gonna leave it as is for now. And the last thing we need for this design is a button that will basically submit the records. All right, so we are all good for now. So the next is we'll need a data source so that we can connect this grid to the data source and get the data, and then later on use that data to submit it to that data source as well. Now, since it's a Canvas app, we are not restricted to just using a Dataverse. We can use SharePoint list, we can use SQL as well. But for this demo, and to keep it simple, we're going to use a Dataverse table as our data source. So if I go, let me just open up Power App again, and so that I can go to Dataverse table, and let's create a new table. Let's call it timesheet tracking. Yep, that should be fine. Name, we can leave name as it is, and let's create it. Now, based on this diagram, we're going to add some values. So we need day, we need project, hours, description, and on leave. Let's quickly add those columns in. So we need day. Now we can select it as a choice field. Now in Dataverse, we get some fields out of the box, some choice fields out of the box that we can utilize. So if I go to choices, and if I select here, you can see that there's a day available. And if you click on edit choice, you'll see all the values that are coming along with that choice field. So that should be sufficient for our requirement. All right, next is we need a field for project. Now this will most likely be a different table where all the project information is stored. But for this demo, let's just keep it simple and create a new choice field. And we'll just put in some details like timesheet and asset management. And let's add one more. Let's call it leave management. I think that's just for the demo, this should be sufficient. Project demo. All right, that should be fine. All right, so that looks good. Let me just save that. Next is we need a field for hours. Let's just add one field for hours and one more for description. Typos here, let me fix that. And now this field is a multi-line field. So let's select a multi-line text here. And lastly, we need a checkbox for on leave. So let's add one more column on leave, and let's make it a yes, no field. And that's pretty much it. So let me save my table here. Now, once I save the table, while it is saving, let me go back here to my Power App. Now let's save this app. And in order for me to use this data source, sorry, I need to refresh it so that all the new data sources are available in my app as well. So maybe we can just try to see if it is available right now. So if I go on add data, see it's not available here for now. Let me refresh it. Just make sure that you save it first before refreshing. Otherwise, you will lose all the changes that you have made. All right, now let's go to data source and add a data source here. This time again, show all tables. Let me see if I can find it this time. Okay, so we can see this. We can see that our table is now available. Let me add that. Now, this is a bit tricky because we don't want to show all the records in this data source. Instead, we want to show the week over here, as in the days of the week. So if I go here and in items, I can't just select this as a data source. Timesheet tracking's right, because there's no, first off, there's no data in here. And secondly, I just want to show the days of the week in rows. So what we'll do is we'll use choices function, and then we will select day choice field. And now if I go here and change the layout, let's say to one which has a label in it, here you go. You can see that it is now showing all the days. Now there are some additional values which we don't need. We basically need only the last 6 values. So we can modify our function here. We can use a last n function, and we can restrict it to get only the last 6 values. Now that should fix it, and we should only be getting now the values that we need, which is awesome. So, all right, so we don't need that, so we can get rid of this. Now we have this. Let's just reduce the size so we have a bit more real estate for other fields. And if you go back to the diagram, we need a project field, hours, description, and on leave. So let's quickly add those fields in here. So we'll need a text. So sorry, we'll need a combo field, combo box field for our project. So let's move it to here. Yeah, that looks nice. And we also need a text box field for the hours. Now we don't need that bigger field because it's hours and it's usually just 1 digit, unless someone is working like really crazy. And we will need another text field. This will be for the description. And this will be a multi-line field. So you can change the mode here from single line to multi-line. Nice. And lastly, we will need another field for our checkbox. All right, that looks good. We need to change the text from option to on leave. That looks nice. All right, so we have, now if we go back to our wireframe, you can see it is looking pretty much similar to the wireframe that we had. And it is looking pretty good. And considering the amount of time we have spent, like 20 minutes, it was pretty good. All right, let's leave it here for now. What we can do is we don't need that much space, so we just move it a bit so that it looks a bit nicer. And if we go here, all right, so now we have our design pretty much done. Let's just make it a bit more convenient for users to understand which field belongs to what. One more thing that we need to do is we need to bind it to our project field. So we are going to use the same function of choices. We're going to use our timesheet tracking data source, and this time we're going to select project. All right, and that should fix it. Now I should have my projects in the combo box. Secondly, so this is a number field because we want to put in numbers, and we can put in some hint text so that everybody know what they need to put in here. So this is hours. This is description. Now you will see that you don't see description here because there is a default text. So there's a default text set for this, but we don't need a default text, so we can just remove that. And for this one, you need to go into advanced, and if you'll see here, no selection text, we can put project. Nice. So now once user open up this app, they can see that what they want to provide in each field, which is nice. One more thing we can do is, if someone selects that they are on leave, we should be disabling the rest of the fields to avoid any data entry, right? All right, so let's do that. Let's come here, and there's an option display mode. And what I'll do is I'll check if they have selected, if in checkbox they have selected the checkbox, then it should be set as stable. So if checkbox value equals true, then mark it as disabled, otherwise keep it as enabled. So if I copy it, and I should be doing the same for the rest of the fields as well. So if I go here, disable this and disable this as well. All right, now let's test it. Let me play it now. Now you can see that I have my projects available. I can select the project. I can put in the hours. Can put in some description. Asset. And that's pretty much it. And if I, let's say, I was on leave on Tuesday, if I select on leave, then this disables this entire row, which is exactly what we were looking for. So that's good. All right, so now that we have pretty much finished our design, and we are happy with this design for now as a minimum viable feature. Next step is we need to submit this data to our Dataverse table. So let's go to submit now and we will be adding some functions and some code to our on select function here for this button. So first thing is what we need to do is we need to traverse through all the records of this gallery, and we need to populate all this data into a collection so that later we can use that collection to enter it in the Dataverse table. Right, so let's just see what this combo box is. Combo box 1. So we need to fix that up. Combo box 1. And rest is pretty much, I would say, pretty fine. Let's just make sure that we have the right fields in the right places. So this is title 1. This is text box input 2. Yep, and all good. All right, so let's test it again this time. Let's keep it like this. All right, one more thing that we can do here is, and pretty sure I have done it in my code, is we are only going to capture the records for which user has provided some hours. So for which user has either provided some hours or, so it's an or. And we're gonna select this checkbox value. And if I go here, so it's either checkbox, either user was on leave or they have provided some hours here. All right, so, and that's looks pretty good. So let me just put in some details here as well. I worked 8 hours on leave management on this day, and I created a leave app. All right, so let's submit. Now, we haven't submitted anything to our Dataverse table, but we have created a collection now. And we can see the data in our collection if we go to File and then Collections. All right, so you can see I have 3 records here, which is exactly right. And for Tuesday, I was on leave. And for the other days, I have some data in here, which is perfect. All right, now I'm gonna, one thing that I can do here is I should be clearing my collection so that I don't have duplicate records. Timesheet week collection. All right, that looks like there's some typo here. Let me just copy paste it to make it consistent. All right, so I'm clearing my timesheet collection first, and then I'm populating it based on whatever data I have entered in the grid. All right, so the last part is to go through this collection and then add those records in our Dataverse table. All right, so this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to loop through my timesheet week collection, and then I'm going to add those records in my timesheet tracking data source. All right, let me just make sure that this is right. Okay, now it looks right. Let me just copy paste it here as well. Okay, so let's see what is the problem here. Right, does not match. Okay, so basically it's this. Let's just make sure that we have the right one. So we don't have the right one. So it's label 2_1. So that's fine. We can fix that up. So label 2_1. And it looks like we are good to go. Let's see if we are missing anything. Oh, we are missing description. So let's just. All right, okay, so there is an issue here. Okay. We just need to be a bit careful when we are updating these formulas. All right, so what we are doing here is we are capturing name. So we are just capturing this work week for the name. We are capturing day for the day that we stored. We are capturing description for the description that we stored in our collection. And same thing goes for project and on leave and hours. Now for project and day, you can see that we are basically capturing the choice field from our timesheet tracking's day choice field, and we are matching it by the day that we have stored in our collection. And that is basically so that we have the right format that we need to send back to our Dataverse table. All right, I think we are good to go now. And one more thing we can do here is to show that our records are submitted, is we can notify. We can use notify, and in notify, we can do something like this. Timesheet submitted successfully, and this is notify.type.success. All right, now if I click on play, I'll keep the data as it is, and I'll submit it. All right, so the data, okay, so you can see that my timesheet has been submitted successfully. There were no errors. And if I go back to my Dataverse table, and if I go to data, yeah, you can see that there are 3 records here. And in order for me to view more information about it, I have to go to views. And in active timesheet tracking view, I need to add more columns. So you can see that by default, there's just 1 column here, but I can add more columns. I can add day, shows me which day it was, hours, shows me how many hours there were, description, project, and lastly on leave. All right, and I can move them as well as the way I want. And I can also add in another column for owner to show who actually submitted it. So there you can see that we added 3 records, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all the data that we entered here is stored properly in our table. And we can see who actually submitted this as well. And we have successfully created an app based on our design. So that's basically it for today, guys. So what we covered is we created a Canvas app based on a design that was provided to us in the form of a wireframe. And then we use Dataverse for storing the data that we capture for timesheet app. and then store it in that table. And then later on, we can utilize it however way we want. And that's pretty much it. So that's the end of our model-driven app versus Canvas app videos. Hope you guys have enjoyed it and you have got some benefit out of it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Until our next video, take care, guys.